welcome everyone. We'll be talking about the future of online leads, either generating, converting, just this whole process with all of the changes happening with NAR and just in real estate in general. We've got Mark Rader, who's not only a really good friend of mine, he's also on the team here locally, and he's a coach inside of a brilliant tribe. And he's got his own company with a couple of friends of mine as well, Revel Up Online Lead Generation. So we've got Mark to talk about this with us. But first, Mark, how did paintballing go? Did you end up going?
I did. I
What
did.
did you get bruised?
I did. I got smoked in the beginning, and then I did some peppering. So I got
Mm.
warmed up, and then I was bringing the heat.
Oh, I love that. I like that. And everyone else joining in, let us know what city, what state, what country you're in. I know we have people from all over. And if you haven't registered for our webinar tomorrow, that's going to be going over NAR guidelines and what's next. We've got 2,000 of you registered for that one. So just jump into that one. I know Monch will put up the link. All right, let's see where everybody's from. Dennis, Jersey. I love Jersey. I've got a really good friend of mine, Stuart Jacobson. I think Mark knows him. He's out of Jersey. Doug Arnett, Oklahoma City. Very cool. How's the weather in Oklahoma City today, Doug? Donna, Houston, Texas. What's up, Donna? Two Houstons. We got Tom Park. Menifee. Oh, I love that. That's not far from us, Mark. Not too far.
Oh, no way.
Amanda,
Oh,
do you
yeah.
mean
SoCal.
Josh? Where's Joshua? Is it Joshua Tree? Is that closer to Palm Springs or is that somewhere else? Doug says hot.
Uh,
It's hot.
it hot.
Death. Death. Steve, York, Pennsylvania, Cave Creek, Arizona. Nice to have you, Judy. Mark, good. Raining in Florida, but humid probably, I'm assuming, right? I know there's that hurricane that went through it. Amanda, Texas, Chris, Kansas City. Let's get right into this, guys. Here's what's changing. And this is why I had Mark with me, because he runs Revel Up. By the way, if you haven't taken a look at them, take a look at them. But what's changing is that online leads, number one, won't be able to be assigned to multiple people from these big companies. So realtor.com, Zillow, and there are a whole bunch of other ones that they used to get one lead and then send it out to multiple people. So the number one thing that's the most obvious, it's probably the most biggest change we're going to see, is that now leads have to go to the person or company or team that is advertising. So for example, if I'm going to Mark and say, hey, Mark, I want Ventura County, and I want my team name or my broker name to appear, and you're going to give me all these leads. Now Mark can't sell them to multiple clients. They can only come to one client, whether it's a team or a brokerage, right? Or a person. That to me is the biggest change. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, the big elephant in the room is the NAR settlement. How are we going to be able to talk to buyers when they're going to have to sign something in order for us to then show them homes? And I think that's where we'll start, Mark, because
Yeah.
Zillow put out this little contract just a couple of months ago, I think it was, where they said, hey, here's kind of like a touring contract. You don't have to choose us. Here it is for the day, for this property specifically. We don't even have to talk about payment, really. It's just kind of let's feel each other out, see if you want to work with us. If you do, then we can move forward to the next. Right now, how are you talking to people that are coming through that are buyers about this if they bring it up? And are they bringing it up? I don't know. What's happening
Sure.
right now?
Sure. So great question. In my experience right now, talking with buyers, it's actually in my scenario. I'm sure that's different for a lot of people, but in my scenario, it really does not come up. Very, very rarely. And if
Do you
it
think it'll
does,
come up more in the next few months, or is that something that you think is going to stick around?
so one thing that I've noticed is in the beginning when the media and the press and it was all over social media, it was all over the news. That's when, it was a topic of conversation until the next big news story came out, right? So
Okay.
to answer your question, yes, I think it will come up once it's covered by the media again. And then I
Mhm.
also think it'll die off really fast, just like it
Okay.
did before.
Well, then the next piece to this, I agree with you because you and I call live on Thursdays, so we get to
Yeah.
hear each other's conversations.
By the
Uh,
way, everyone needs to jump on that call. Like everyone
it's
needs
a
to see that.
it's a
It's
live
awesome.
prospecting call that we do, so we get to hear each other's conversations and dialogue. All right. So second, if somebody says, Mark, great, I love this. I actually want to go see homes, Mark. I'm available this weekend. How do you then proceed? Do you say, well, let's meet up first? Do you do what Zillow now is doing, which is, oh yeah, you know what? Let me send you this touring contract. It's just one page, right? You won't owe us anything. Here's a starting point, right? Or do you have a full-on presentation and say, hey, in order for me to work with you, I'm going to have a buyer broker agency agreement. How does this
Right,
work
right.
for you in your head?
Great, great question. So first and foremost, like it's ideal to build a relationship with a client, a customer, buyer, seller, whoever it is, whether it's an online lead, referral, open house, cold call, warm call, courier pigeon, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's good to have um, a relationship. But if we're being honest here, it's not always how the cookie crumbles. And sometimes
Yeah.
there's people who are hot off the press that just jump in, right? Would you agree?
All the time. All the time. I think
Yes.
people just want to get right to it. They want to. This is why Zillow jumped in and said, well, how can we still do business at a high level and not have this friction of how much do I owe the buyer's agent, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
go.
So I first and foremost, one thing I like to do, because I'm actually dealing with this now. So I'll just give you a real life example. There was a customer that came through online lead, a buyer,
Okay.
gung ho, ready to go. I want to look at homes and blah 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 blah. Jump on a call, talking, and just kind of starting to peel back the onion, seeing what their situation is, why they want to move, just engaging a made plan, LP mama type stuff, right? Come to find out, she's going through a divorce, which is why she needs to move, and in order to purchase, she needs to finalize that divorce. So that's one thing. Number two, we're not pre-approved yet. So in scenarios like this, when I don't have a buyer broker agreement signed, when I don't have a pre-approval yet, when I don't even have proof of funds or there's still a step that needs to take place, whenever we're in the very early stages, one thing I like to do is I like to pitch my services as kind of like a one-stop shop where let's set up a game plan for you to help you have longevity in this home search rather than burnout. And try to educate the buyer. Hey, look, we need to take care of steps A, B, and C before we go to step D, because what's going to happen, since I do this for a living, is I've seen this before, is you're going to fall in love with some homes, and then all of a sudden, what can happen is something changes in circumstances, or there's different rates, or there's a new program, and then all of a sudden that might affect what we're looking at, where we're looking at it, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what price range. There's so many different things that fall into place. So the last thing I want is for you to be let down. And then if I didn't help you with that process. And by saying that, it really helps people, for one, trust you, trust me as their spokesperson, their realtor, right? And then
Mhm.
also too, it helps you as an agent to lay out the land and also kind of like showcase what's to come rather than just bouncing around and fumbling and getting yourself, quite frankly, in a pickle.
Okay. All right. I like that. So then if we're looking at changes to online leads, I think it's also important to look at what's not going to change, right?
Right.
So we know that these big companies can no longer quarterback these leads to everyone all at once and then get payment, right? Which is what they were doing. Now it goes to one. The
Mm-hmm.
conversation is definitely going to change along the lines of, well, at what point do we have someone sign something? And if we do, what is it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think what isn't going to change is this. And I think to me, at least, this is what I love. So I'm going here and it's Google, right? The last time I checked, and we'll do this together, most visited websites in the world. Let's go with Wiki because we do have like SEM Rush and all these other ones. But if we take a look at most visited websites in the world as of July, we've got Google, YouTube, X, which creeped up, beat Facebook this month, Instagram, and WhatsApp. All of those are US. They're just kind of cool. But anyways, we're looking at this right here, Google, #1. So if I'm going to visit anywhere, homes for sale in, you know what? Let's go to the audience really quick. Pick a city. We're going to go through this and show you exactly how it works right now so you can understand the nuances. Pick a city. Let's check. Okay, perfect. We'll go to Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and then let me know, guys, is our audio a little low or is it just right? Because we had Linwood say her volume is low. Give me a volume is low or high, just right. Perfect, just right. All right,
Oh,
excellent, just
wait,
right.
hold on. Ronald said Agora Hills. That's like right in our backyard.
Yeah, I know. Then we'll pop up, so we don't want to click on our own. I
That's
like
hilarious. That's like right.
Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Let's go with Point Pleasant, New Jersey. You guys are gonna have some fun with this one. Point Pleasant, New Jersey. There we go. So now we take a look at some things here. Look at the first ones that pop up, right? Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin. Those are the big four, right? And we take a look at then who else owns the rest of this. If you look at some things, usually the first four, if we take, now let's take a look at Agora Hills so people can take a look at different cities, right? Agora Hills, California. You take a look at the first 3 to 4, they're all paid, right? And the thing is, they're blending them in now so that you don't even know.
Mhm.
So that's one big change that they just did. These are still paid. These are ad. So you can do it on your phone right now, everyone. Play along. Type in homes for sale and then pick your city. You'll usually see the big boys or the big girls, right? Zillow, Realtor.com, right? 2. And now you have Zillow again, Trulia. And if we look at now smaller cities, what were some of the smaller cities that were chosen up here so we can take a look? We got Fort Worth, Texas. Let's do Fort Worth. Fort Worth, Texas, and then we'll go through the process so you can see Fort Worth, Texas. Now we've got these two are paying. You see, it's usually the big people. And you can do
Mhm.
that there as well. So now if we click on Zillow, we can take a look at homes, usually without being prompted. Sometimes on the phone, it'll prompt you. It'll be like, hey, what are you looking for? It'll ask you some questions. It'll take you through a little funnel. But the point is that all of these companies are still playing in the paying world, and that's not going to change. They're going to Facebook, Instagram, they're going to Google, and they're going to all of these different sites to get that traffic and extract it and then sell us those leads, right?
And it's just
And
not going
so
to show up as sponsored.
yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they're going to keep on tweaking it. Google's going to keep on tweaking this whole thing, and then who knows how ChatGPT plays into this now that they have their own search as well. What's going to happen there? It's like a future talk.
Mhm.
But I think what we look at it, yeah. So Manny, some of these are no longer showing as sponsored anymore. It's just part of the search. That's one of the changes that recently happened. So if you can take a look, sometimes it'll show if I type it in on my phone. Go ahead and type it in on your phone, guys. Go to Safari or Google and type in. I'll do it with you. Homes for sale in. I'm gonna do Thousand Oaks because I'm in Thousand Oaks, California. And then on my phone, it still shows sponsored. And the ones that are sponsored are Zillow at the top, and then Redfin and Realtor.com. So it's got 3 sponsored. But you just watched on my screen, it didn't show sponsored, and yet they are. So the consumer then is going to these places, and then what happens? And they sell those leads to us right now. They can't resell them to somebody else, just one. team, brokerage, or agent, right? And then what happens? They come to us and we call them, unless we have a company like Revel Up, and then they go to us directly. We kind of cut out the middle company. But then what's the conversation like? And I think this is where we lose most people, because the future of online lead generation and conversion all revolves around one thing, everyone. And it's the same thing that's kept our industry going in the right direction, and that's relationships. Because a lot of people start the conversation. This is why I love our calls, by the way, Mark, our prospecting calls, because the one thing that everyone takes away is, oh, it was just a regular conversation. That's so weird, right? That's what they always say. It's like, oh, well, that was a regular conversation.
It was so nonchalant. Yeah.
And I think people that don't call routinely, I think feel that it's a lot more difficult than it is, because they forget that all you're trying to do, whether it's an online lead from one of the big companies, Revel Up, or on your own, you're just building relationships. And these relationships, especially online lead relationships, this is the thing that's not going to change. They take a super long time, really long time. Some of them you'll hit like Mark's, where he got a multimillionaire under contract in 23 days and then it closed 30 days later, right? It was a Facebook lead, closed it. It was
Crazy.
10.5 million. That's crazy. Those happen. But what really happens long term is you'll create these relationships if you treat it like one. And that's, I think, the biggest challenge, Mark, because I've seen, and this is where I need your help so that you can tell us, is this going to continue where it's like, I'm calling you the online lead, Mark, and I'm like, my 3 questions that I want to ask all the time, which are completely wrong, because this is what we prioritize. Mark, thanks for visiting our website. Listen, are you looking to buy like in the next 3 months? Right? That's my first question. And I say, hey, are you working with a real estate agent already? Right? And listen, are you gonna do this all cash, or are you have you talked to a bank already? Are you pre-approved?
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, right. Like, slow down.
These are the 3 questions that all real estate agents throw out there, and they push them, and they make people that are just starting to look, they make them feel uncomfortable. And I think that's where a lot of people fail with this. And it's only going to get worse, Mark, because now with the NAR settlement, and as soon as buyers understand how this world works and it becomes more customary, it becomes more relationship driven. Like, buyers will want to understand what you have to offer better. So you better be prepared to explain that. And if they want to meet up, if they want to understand further, do you have something outlined that explains what you offer? Why are you different?
Right.
Right. And one thing Mark does so well, so I'm just gonna speak for you, Mark, but one thing that I want all of you to learn in converting online leads, and in the future, as you're watching and learning, one of the things that Mark does so well is that at the end he says, listen, depending on who you are, Manny, if it's you, if I'm calling you, if Mark's calling you, and you say, hey, I'm looking for Agora Hills, and then we sense that it's kind of far out, but we know where you're looking, we're going to close it out and say, well, Mark or Manny, it was great talking to you. Listen, we've got this great PDF outline for you that explains to you how to move into California, how to move into Agora Hills, or more about Agora Hills. And I think a lot of us don't give anything of value at the closing of this conversation that you're having with the online lead. So what happens? They're going to talk to somebody else, or you drop the ball. And it's so simple to do, because if I'm here, Mark, you watch me do this sometimes. If I just finish talking to Manny and I'm like, hey, Manny, and I do this live. So I'm talking to Manny, and you're like, oh, Agora Hills. I'm like, okay, let me write 10 things to look out for when moving into Ventura County, California, when buying a home. And so you just type it in here, you type it into Gemini, which is Google's, and then I simply extract it and put it into a Google Doc and then make it a PDF. And now I have something to send to this client as soon as we hang up. And I can add things in here, right? We want to make them our own. We want to make it unique to us. But I think we don't think fast enough and value driven enough to give this opportunity to connect and make these relationships. Because Mark, what people are looking for are, can I have confidence in this agent to get me to where I want to get to without feeling like I'm being sold a bag of crap?
Yeah. Yeah,
What's
exactly.
What's the biggest complaint you get when somebody tells you Revel Up, the lead generation company, did not work? What's the biggest number one complaint, whether it's a seller or buyer lead that you guys get?
I would say the biggest complaint would be they didn't answer.
And so that's actually the biggest complaint. That's crazy. So then they don't call back?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point. So it's like this is bread and butter right here. I'm gonna give you a real life example.
Yeah, shoot.
So the biggest complaint might be, okay, they didn't answer, which is few and far in between of the complaints. We typically, honestly, we don't get that many complaints about it, but that's the biggest one. So one person complained, "Hey, Mark, these leads," they actually said these leads suck. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? How can we help? So, hey, these leads, they won't answer. Okay, got it. So you've been with us for a little bit of time, like less than a month, and you have X amount of leads. How many times have you called them? Once. Got it. How many times have you texted them? Once. Okay. How many times have you emailed? No, I didn't email. Got it. Okay. So I said, okay, well, let me do some research. So I logged into this client's profile on like the, my side of things, like the master side. And I just started dialing their leads. Completely different state than me. And I just started calling their leads. Within 15 minutes, I got down to the third individual and I set an appointment for the customer to meet and do a consultation with that buyer. So from 15 minutes of these leads suck, hearing the complaint, to me calling, to me hanging up, then me calling the customer saying, "Hey, I just had an appointment with, X, Y, and Z." Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. They were blown away. They were like, "What? You did what?" So
yeah,
that's the biggest complaint, but it's also the most concerning complaint because it's like, what are you doing? Or what are you not doing, actually? And what we're not doing is you're not following up. Would you do an open house and just first of all, would you rush in there in the open house? If someone comes in and say, "Hey, how much are you approved for? When do you want to buy? Do you want to buy now? Can you sign this document?" No, you're going to talk to them for a bit, right? Right? You're not going to like ask them for all this stuff up front. You're gonna build some rapport, right? And then you might call them a couple times after, hopefully, normally. And if not, then let's sit down and talk. So, why would you do the same exact thing with an online lead? Like, this is someone who hasn't even seen you yet. They just showed up to the website just to like look at homes.
So what's
Why
the
would you not try?
what's the biggest success you have in the pattern? Because you've got Manny who says, "I call, then I text, then I call, then I email." What's your process?
That's fantastic. Mine looks. Wait, I'm going to his. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I do. Like call, text, call, email. Unless of course they get back to me and before then yeah. But that's like, man, it's pretty much exactly what I do to a T. So that's great.
All right.
So he's doing the right thing.
Where are you finding that you're having the most success with online leads right now? Is it the buyer leads or the seller leads or both? What are you finding?
Both, but I'm just picking one because I want to answer your question. I'm actually having a lot of excitement towards seller leads right now. I mean, I've done buyer leads for 7 years and I still will and still have. But the seller leads right now, the data is really good and getting real life people who want to transact like right now. People are ready to sell now. People are ready to sell in the next 3 months, 6 months, ready to go. Here's my address. Here's my phone number. How much can I sell my house for? Can we get it going right now? Can we get it going this year?
Okay.
You just got one on Thursday, and he wants to list his house this week. That was
Yeah, very,
crazy.
very true. So for the live calls that we do, we converted somebody live. And it was just a simple conversation. People needed to, dude, how did the call start? The guy was like very like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody type.
I'm pretty
And
sure
then
you actually
I
even
said, hey,
said, "Is this a good time to talk?"
well, I heard his hesitation. He's like, I don't want, who is this guy? I don't want to talk. I'm like, hey, listen, do you even have time to talk right now? And then it shifted. He's like, oh, yeah. What is it?
Well,
So,
real quick, epic
point.
pattern interrupt, and it worked well.
Yeah,
So that was
good point.
awesome.
Good point on that. All right. So then if I'm looking at this here, let me summarize what we're doing. Okay. So if you're listening in and saying, okay, how can I adapt to this new world of online lead generation as it shifts? Because there are things that are going to remain the same. They're still going to come from Google. They're still going to come from Facebook and online. They're still going to come from social media. We get social media leads often. So Instagram DMs, all that. The thing that's going to change though is you have to be clear about your value. What is the value that you're going to bring to these people that you're talking to? Because
Mhm.
that hasn't changed. It's still a relationship-based business. They need to know that they're going to be buying a home with someone they can trust and someone they have confidence in that is going to get the job done. And I mean, truthfully, it is also going to be a challenge whether or not they have to pay you as a buyer's agent. That's a real challenge. So
Yeah.
you have to come up with how am I going to figure that piece out if on the other end, the seller is offering no commission, right?
Right.
So Ryan, he had even talked to the other agents. Your real conversation kept him engaged. Oh, Ryan you were on that call, buddy. Yeah, that's funny. So Mark, have you given a thought to how you're going to proceed as far as working with buyers that have no funds to pay you, but you still want to be able to help them out and help them find a home? Are you
Yeah.
going to are you going to risk uh, you possibly not getting paid on one end, or how are you going to do this?
Yeah. I think one thing that I've developed over the course of my real estate career is being creative. And I don't want to use the word fixer, but sure.
You adapt well, man. You
Yeah,
adapt well.
adapt fixer. So I think one thing is look, is it likely that I'm going to run into a situation where a buyer is going to not have the funds to pay the commission and the seller that they buy a house on is not paying any commission at all and that no one can pay me? Is it likely? Probably not as likely as some of us might say. In my opinion, it's probably not as frequent as it might seem that's being portrayed by the media or whatever. But would I be foolish to not be prepared? Probably, yes. So
Correct.
to answer your question, I think going off of the creativity side of things, I think one thing that's really important is so how can we work this out where it looks a little bit like, okay, maybe we have a conversation with the lender and the buyers and we say, hey, I understand that either it's a percentage or a dollar amount, whatever it is a lot of money, especially when you don't have it. So how can we make this work? Well, one thing that came to my mind is, okay, well, what if we were able to somehow bake it into the loan? So it's like, okay, let's say, for example, just for easy math, it's $5,000. Okay,
Mhm.
so how can agent me get $5,000 for my hard work and earned compensation without having the buyer break the bank and have to not be able to pay me pretty much? Well, I think one way would be to um, offer that $5,000 more than what it was going to originally be accepted at in the accepted offer, and then have the concession credit come back from the seller, right? So if it's a $1
That
million
way.
house,
Okay.
and then you offer $1,005,000, and then
Mhm.
that credit comes back to the agent from the
That's
seller.
creative. All right. So
Yeah.
first, hold on. I don't know that any concessions from the seller, as far as the NAR settlement is concerned, can go directly to the agent or the buyer to pay to the agent. But I think your creativeness on the lending side, that is a possibility if that loan allows it, which is great.
Yep.
Um, I think you've got something there, and I love that you're thinking outside the box, and that's what it's going to take. In fact, Mark, that's what we're talking about tomorrow in the NAR settlement webinar with Saul, who's the CEO of the San Diego MLS, and John, who was an attorney for CAR. But here's something I have for everyone that I think you all need to go through. I'm going to put it in the link below, and then we'll talk about Revel Up, and then we'll call it a day. I have this document that I created for you all because one of the things Mark does really well is he shows his value. And I need all of you to discover what value that is. I need you to go through this and answer some of these questions. And then as you're answering them, make it into a really nice PDF so it's clear to you. See, the reason we don't offer a lot of value, Mark, as
Mhm.
agents isn't because we don't have the value. It's because we're not clear of the value we have because we've never taken time to write it out. We don't know what it is. It's like, yeah, I do that. And then you see somebody else do that. Oh, I do that too. But have you ever written it out? Right? That's the problem.
Absolutely.
So, Mark, is Revel Up available in Canada?
I am checking with our tech team before I answer that. Let me get back to you before the end of the webinar.
All right. And then
Um,
if you have questions about Revel Up. Well, actually, here, 30 seconds. What the hell does Revel Up do?
so basically, we are a 1-to-1 ratio online lead generating company. So you come to us, you can either get buyer leads or seller leads, or you can reach out to us through our website, and we can custom build a package of both buyers and sellers if you'd like.
Okay.
And the price you pay, that's it. There's no admin fee, no setup fee, no tech fee, no commission fee. The price you pay and the leads you see on the front end pricing, that's it. Month to
Okay.
month, no contract, locked in, ready to go. Like I said, we're 1-to-1 ratio. So whatever lead you get is yours. We don't sell it to anyone else. We also offer scripting and coaching with
Okay.
every
And then
package.
Ronald says, what about seller leads? Best three companies? I would say Ronald, because I use Revel Up and I've known Mark for years. Um, Revel Up does seller leads. That was one of the ones I converted live by accident on Thursday. So definitely check them out. Mark, anything else as far as changes coming up that you feel are important, or did we cover the key ones, which I think were mainly two, and everything else remains the same as far as value driven and relationship based?
There is one thing I want to cover.
Dude,
We talked a lot about how to provide value and talk to your buyers whenever the settlement comes out.
huh?
But one thing that I do want to mention is, guys, when it comes to being a listing agent, the same principle applies. Please educate your clients on the potential importance of working with another agent as well. Because what can happen is if they don't look at paying a concession, whatever that amount may be, towards a buyer's agent, what are they
Compensation.
losing? Yeah,
Compensation.
yeah. What are they losing? And that's your job to educate them on that. What are they
Oh,
gaining and what
on
are
the
they
list,
losing
on the listing side,
on
sellers.
the listing side?
Got it. Oh, so
Educate.
legal terms, guys, so we understand, so that you can kind of be on the same page with Mark. Marlene, go ahead and put your email down. Mark will email you as soon as he finds out about Canada. Here's what Mark is saying. Legally, on the seller side, if I'm representing a seller, my fiduciary duty, that's the term, fiduciary duty to the seller is to let them know Mrs. Seller, Mr. Seller, a lot of buyers out there work with agents, great agents, amazing agents. And I would be doing you a disservice if I
Mhm.
didn't make you aware that those agents need some type of compensation. Mrs. Seller, I'm not telling you how much because that's up to you, right? But I need you to know that you have a better chance of selling your home for the price that you want if you open up to bringing in more buyers, those buyers that are working with amazing agents. So it's up to you what that compensation would be. And those, now that we're bringing that up like that, because we've been practicing, the number one question is, well, Tristan, Mark, how much should I pay? What should it be? I go, and look, Mrs. Seller, all I can tell you is that this is what it's been over the last 10 years on average. But it's up to you to decide because that is going directly from you to this buyer's agent. And
Mhm.
when the buyer's agent comes in with an offer, they'll be requesting a certain amount of pay. And then at that point, if it's less than or more than, then we can negotiate and say, hey, it's going to work. It's not going to work. Uh, but that's how you roll with it. We'll go into it further tomorrow in the NAR settlement webinar. But for now, Mark says, we've done Canada before. Can you email us so we can check your local market? Marlene, grab Marlene's email there, Mark. And I think we've got it. And I think any other questions, comments, concerns, explanations, any burning desires, like my friend Stu says.